Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to RSA Conference 2024. This is the 5th annual SOC report. So my name is Steve Fink. I'm here with my colleagues Jessica Baer Oppenheimer and Stephen Baer. So we're here to tell you
that we're not related.
Yeah. We're here to tell you about all of the traffic that you guys generate while you're on this network.
So first, a disclaimer, right? Like any of these events, right? Everything is monitored. We're watching your traffic. You saw the signs as you guys came in, right? So free wireless available, and the next one, and the code of conduct, right? So this all falls under the umbrella of just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? But there you have it. You were warned, and we monitor it, and we collected some really interesting data.
So let me tell you a little bit about our team. So our team is made up of industry professionals. Several of us, we travel the world together. We work additional conferences. We started this particular SOC here at RSA Conference after RSA Conference came to us at Black Hat and said, hey, we love what you're doing at Black Hat, so why don't you come do it for us too? And we said, okay, cool, we'll do that. So this year we have 5 NetWitness analysts, 10 Cisco and Splunk analysts, 1 IBM threat hunter, and then us 3. So here's a little bit of a view inside our SOC. So we have the monitors. Obviously, everybody loves dashboards. You know, we don't have any pew-pew maps, sorry. We get a whole crowd of people coming around. We do talk about everything. We give multiple SOC tours. I think we did 9 this year. 9 SOC tours, press interviews, we talk. We evangelize cybersecurity. And what's super unique about this is we have an environment where everyone should be a cybersecurity professional. So that means we should not see anything, right? So the way we do it is we get a span from Moscone. We only are looking at the Wi-Fi, which is specifically your traffic, right? The attendees are on the conference Wi-Fi. So we're looking for bad stuff, and we find it. So the way we bring it in on that span, we put that into a switch. From that switch, we put it in what's normally a reverse mode of a mirror, right? We bring in one port and we split out to multiple tools. So we put the switch into backwards mode.
Thanks so much. It's been a real honor to work with NetWitness since 2017 on the Security Operations Center here at RSA Conference. It's grown as the conference has evolved. It started as an educational experience where, hey, this is what's on the network and maybe you shouldn't do that. And we've actually expanded over the years to be an integral part of the security team here at RSA Conference. We coordinate with the physical security team, with the network operations team, with those that are actually running the conference as well. And that over the years, we've increased the number of tools that we brought in there. You see the Splunk and the security cloud with the breach protection, user protection, cloud protection. And also, we have a number of partners who donate licenses for threat intelligence. When we're looking at these different events, we can correlate that with Recorded Future, Alpha Mountain AI, Pulse Dive, IBM X-Force Exchange, and community tools. So when we're looking at a particular threat, we can understand and what that context is. So we have to allow you to go and do the cool, nasty stuff that you want to do in your demonstrations, the trainings that you go to, the briefings, because if we were blocking stuff, then that would be a really sad day.
And what's this all look like?
Exactly, right? So we're going to get into the topology, which a lot of folks are kind of wondering about. So what we do is before the conference starts, we deploy virtual appliances inside the network operations center for DNS to have that visibility. So all the DNS requests, when you go to Google and it translates to 8.8.8.8, so we don't have to be computers, we can type in that name of where we want to go on the internet, and that is all passed through there for visibility, and also we can understand what type of traffic the conference attendees need to go to have those statistics to share with you, which we're going to do today. And then we have that span port, which Steve's going to talk more about.
So as the traffic comes in from the span port, we split it out into multiple tools. One of those tools being NetWitness. NetWitness is really our single source of truth when it comes to the packet because it's port and protocol agnostic. It records everything. We also pump in the logs from the firewalls and our other devices all into NetWitness, where that data can be correlated with a common set of metadata. From that metadata, we then share it with the other tools.
So that's going in, we have the logs coming in from DNS, from the secure access going into NetWitness and the logs. You also have the firewall, which Steve talked about, and then that's coordinating with Splunk. All of that metadata of the network detection and response is correlated there and makes it searchable. And then what brought us together, it's been over 10 years that we've been working together with NetWitness about this malware analysis.
Yeah, so our original integration was with the product formerly known as ThreatGrid, now Cisco Malware Analytics. This was our first integration, so we had these two tools, and we would utilize NetWitness to pull any binaries that are unique. And so if we've never seen it before, we will pull that binary out, and we will send it to ThreatGrid, Cisco Malware Analytics, and we will find out, is this benign or is this a threat? And it will return a score telling us that information. We ingest that data into NetWitness, and then we share it with all the other components within the platform.
So what that allows us to do is we can work with a file that comes through without becoming infected, detonate your malware on our network instead of yours. The same thing when we're looking at domains. A number of domains came in that were really suspicious that we were doing investigations. We can put inside the sandbox with an integrated threat intelligence without getting our machines infected. Every once in a while we'll have a newer person and he's like, I looked it up, I'm like, whoa, stop, remember, do it in the sandbox and not on your machine, your corporate network, right? So all those firewall events are going in through analytics for incident generation, and that's all coming into the extended detection and response XDR. We coordinate with each other in Slack. We have automation.
Yep, we have a lot of automations that end up in Slack where we can share information. We can actually request additional information from the tools in Slack as well, and those requests are passed on to the appropriate tool.
And then when the Recorded Future donated additional license so that we could have their integration with Splunk and have that correlation of the threat intelligence with all those logs and then all those threat intelligence sources coming together. So I'll hold it there. I know that's of high interest to the folks. Also, this is being recorded. The presentation will be posted, and we'll be doing a security operations report this summer after it goes through conference legal and the other legal teams. It's so interesting when we write those reports because we don't want to do a wall of shame or sheep, but there's sometimes where we need to have really difficult conversations with security companies about their security posture. So we always give them a chance to talk about it, to respond to it, and even to fix their stuff before we publish that.
So within NetWitness, we have multiple components. Normally in an enterprise, these would be on separate appliances and they would be spread out to handle the load of whatever capacity is necessary to take in. Here, we're in a hurry, we have to build it quickly, so we kind of truncate that just a little bit, and we put it just on 3 appliances. So 2 of the appliances are designed for ingest and creation of the metadata, and then we put all the other components in a virtualized environment on the other appliance, and that's what makes up the NetWitness platform.
So from an analyst view, we start out with ingesting some of this data. We get the dashboards up and running, right? You can see incidents and then the alerts. And then you dive down into all those details, right? And start to look at the threats, analyzing some of those issues, start to hone in on where the traffic's coming from, what it's doing, right? And then finally, start to hunt. Go in, look at things in a backward compatibility perspective, color, context. Have we seen it before? Have we not seen it before? What's it doing? What's its ultimate goal?
So what Steve mentioned threat hunting, right? So we have a whole team of threat hunters, and the threat hunters and their purpose within the SOC is to actually look for the unknown bad, right? So we have that human element where the human looks at some data and says, man, that looks weird. And then they really start digging into it. So it was, I believe, 2018, quarantine makes time weird, right? We actually found a C2 infrastructure that was using 404 errors as command and control traffic, right? And that was just simply an analyst sitting in front of the screen, looking at it and looking, and why are we getting all these 404 errors? Like, this person's just pounding, and wait, I got this person hitting the same site, and they're getting a 404, and they're getting a 404, 404, 404 everywhere. But the byte counts kept changing. So he was like, this is weird. And so he started digging into it. We found an entire C2 infrastructure. We walked down, we had a chat with the FBI, they had a chat with the NSA, they came over, we pulled some PCAPs, sent it off with them, and before the end of the conference, they had dismantled that C2 infrastructure. So here's the kind of what happens with the files, right? So we get a binary file, it comes out, we process those uniques like I mentioned before, and so we saw 544 different files that we thought could potentially be malicious. We actually sent 50 of those up to ThreatGrid, and we brought them back and had a result whether they were benign or malicious. And we found some very unique malware. Are we dead again?
Just the little logos. So the other part of the infrastructure is the firewall. I want to give a shout out to Brian there, built the original SOC in the box here back in the Cisco threat wall. We've been sharing infrastructure for a while and are able to deploy all this gear in about a day because of having the switch, the firewall, the storage, the Splunk, all that stuff in one place. So we're in intrusion detection mode. We could be blocking stuff, but of course, then you wouldn't have your great conference. Where we detect those events, and some of the other things that we do is the number of unique hosts. You see here that Apple is leading the way, 17,000 unique devices connected to the network since Monday, when we first came on. So with that, we're able to see threat intelligence, attempts for intrusion. If it's something that we need to dig into deeper, then our analysts will do that, and if we have to take appropriate action. The other thing that we did that this year is Splunk integration. So this is integration here first with Recorded Future, with that threat intelligence, and then we also had an integration with NetWitness, be able to have that metadata, and this is showing different types of attack paths and vectors that are coming in. We also integrated with the malware analysis and extended detection and response, and something new, which is called multi-cloud defense. Because some of our infrastructure we need to put up into the cloud. We want to make sure that that is secure, firewalled with integrations, and then, of course, with the firewall. So having those dashboards and aggregation allows our team members to focus more on threat hunting and then to see the alerts that come up on the dashboards as they happen. So this is the extended detection and response, where we're able to see the number of files, the flow, security events, DNS events. If something like comes up as blocked, that really gets our attention because by default we don't block. Last year we actually had a block occur. Like, wow, did we mess something up? Did we misconfigure something? It was because there's certain illegal activity that we can't even turn off that blocking. Some folks had tried to go to websites that are illegal. We worked with the Network Operations Center to see where they went. We could track all the way through the conference according to the access points. And when they left, and then when they came back and talked to law enforcement as appropriate in that case. So some other things we can do with this is dig in. This is a scanning. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but this is what it looks like when one person decides to scan this open network. And it helps us very quickly visualize that and then get a summary report for the analysts, especially we'll occasionally bring in new folks to come and learn in this environment next to our seasoned people, and it just describes, hey, this is what it means in very easy to understand language. This is the new infrastructure that we put up, the firewall for the cloud, so that we could have that infrastructure of some of those integrations that you saw those pointy arrows to. So that is secure because we don't want to leak data there. Another thing new is the attack surface management. What this does is it shows you, here's all of the different tools that you have in your security operations center. This is how they relate to each other. Here's how they're sharing APIs. This is how they're communicating to make sure that we don't have stuff that's stalled out, that's hard-coded in, or different aspects that may be particularly vulnerable, or that gap assessment. And that's what it looks like when you're doing your gap assessment. So that's the infrastructure. Let's talk about statistics, right? What's the traffic?
Stats, stats, stats.
Stats, not SOC stats.
So, not surprisingly, things are trending, right? In some cases, trending down, right? So think about the post-COVID years, right? Not pulling as much data as we had in the past, right? But still seeing some very unique things, right? So when you start to look at total number of sessions, down, right? But it is a conference, right? And we're not necessarily doing a lot of the things that we would be doing because we're security professionals and we hook up to a network. And probably a lot of you folks have actually, if you have hooked up to the network, it's your demo stations, it's your what you're showing off at the conference. It's probably not your personal event, right? Or your personal life. But you'll see some intersections where that changes, right? We captured a lot of logs, right? 39 million. We captured a lot of packets. All of that goes into that analysis hopper, right? Well, allows us to do some really interesting things with that data. Bandwidth peaks you can see there as well, right? And then come down and look at detection, right? Year over year, we trend accordingly. We see some interesting spikes during the day too. And there's also some interesting intersections of traffic in and out of and around the Moscone Center, okay?
So one of the common questions that we get asked every year is, what do you do with this data at the end of it? Can I buy it? And the answer is no. So immediately upon the finish of today, we're gonna head over and we start destroying all this data, right? So we have a commitment to both you as attendees and RSA conference that we will destroy the data. The first year we did this,
I cried.
we cried a lot. So we literally physically destroyed over $100,000 in hard drives, punched a hole right through them with a massive hydraulic press. And there were a lot of tears.
It was streamed
shed.
live on Facebook.
Yes.
Looked like a bad rendition of Office
Fortunately,
Space.
yeah, we were able to convince RSA Conference that physical destruction wasn't necessary. We do put all of the drives, everything through a 13 level DoD capable wipe. So when we get done, it'll all be gone. Now, if you notice, we've trended up this year for encrypted traffic. And that's great, that's fantastic. We want to see 100%, all of it, 100% encrypted. But as Steve mentioned, in the COVID, we became lax and we actually went down. We went down steeply. So we are working on getting better. We are working on going up. Jessica and I have the opportunity to travel globally. So we do see different regions. The US is the worst. So it's US, UK, and anything in Asia. So keep getting better, use a VPN. I gotta have all the pie charts. So we do break it down. So if you see all these different protocols, this will be on the final report. You can watch the recording, you can pause it, everything. No need to go into all that. But we break it all out. Like literally we have detail upon detail.
So, passwords, right?
We got a few.
Yeah, we've got some really good ones and some really not so good ones. And then we've got a lot of applications that are using things in clear text, right? We're security professionals, people. What are we doing? So, interestingly enough, right, the accounts are out there, right? 400 and some accounts, right? Very unique. Clear text passwords, 36,000. Now, you might want to say that that's part of like your demo station, or you might want to blame your marketing people, or maybe the SE in the booth is just working really hard, and you give them a little credit. But in the grand scheme of things, when you watch how all these things unfold in the real world, then this analysis is all that more popular, right? Think about where these devices are going after this conference. Think about the things you're doing in your personal life. Like my esteemed colleague, Mr. Fink, mentioned, use a VPN, right? Use the right applications. And again, like I said earlier, just because you can doesn't mean you should, and this applies here. Okay.
So we have the virtual appliances for DNS in the Network Operations Center. We're able to see a number of statistics. We can see the trends. The last one, it looks like we're below this year, but that was at 11 a.m. So by 3 o'clock teardown, we know that this will go above it. The other little thing to the side is how much would have been blocked if we were in a production environment. So we do not do the blocking, but you can see from here, and I'll make it a little bit bigger there, that these are the number of events that would have been blocked by default. You see some of them are newly seen domains. A lot of those are spun up for training in your production environment. That's a way that you can enhance your security if something's been spun up recently because it's part of the attack infrastructure. Unless, of course, you're Mr. Fink and he buys domains just to have them so that they're old by the time he wants to use them for exploitation, which is another thing you can do.
I may have 50 or so, maybe.
So some other things that we'll do on there, which is command and control, as was shared, phishing attacks, crypto mining. By default, those would all have been blocked, but we allow you to have those experiences. And if you want to crypto mine while you're here, knock yourself out. So applications are something that we started tracking a few years ago. These are unique applications that have connected to the network. We've seen that they have continued to go up over the years. We're double where we were, but this conference was right before the world shut down 4 years ago. You may have got that email like I did, like you may have been exposed to someone with COVID, as you recall that. But we've over doubled the number of applications connected to the network. What's interesting is we have 17,000 unique users. In the past, we've had up to 40,000 unique devices connected. So the number of devices have gone down as people decided, like maybe I'll use my hotspot, or maybe I don't want to use this conference Wi-Fi because it's a flat network with no segmentation. Someone could be sniffing it with Wireshark like we're using with NetWitness. Of course, we destroy our data, they might not, but that's why we encourage you to use these proper protocols, because when you go to Starbucks, when you go to your hotel, whatever you're doing there is the same that you're doing here. One thing that we did note is the number of Slack channels. Those have really grown. There are almost 3,600 unique Slack channels being used here at the conference. With these apps, they are categorized into different risk categories. If we had to shut one down because there was a threat happening that we're notified by the physical security team or the network team or the conference, we could shut that down at the app level should that arise. So AI, right? Did you guys go to any presentations this week that didn't include AI? So of course I have to talk about it, but it's what you're using is what I want to talk about. These are the top AI apps that were used at the conference here, including Notion. You see it's a high risk, and that's about sharing, because this is at the mindset of being in a corporation or an organization or a government entity. It's like if you are pasting stuff in there because you're trying to do your work email or something, then whoa, let's be careful there. So those are some of the things that we have seen. Obviously, some of those vendors are here, and they would love you to use their technology. It's got that point of our briefing where you cuddle up to someone next to you who you like, or get to know someone else, because we're going to go into story time. Some of the things that we've seen on the network that we probably hope we shouldn't. First thing is we like to give our awards out about the most commonly used websites or applications. So we have the Apple has now become the widely used application infrastructure at the conference, displacing Google and Microsoft in years past. As we may have seen from the unique devices, that majority of devices connecting to the conference Wi-Fi were from Apple. mChat, though, holds the lead from Google. They displaced WhatsApp a couple of years ago, and they still are there. Crypto mining, we always get to learn about new stuff that people are using their machines for to make a little money on the side, whether they know it or not. Maybe someone else is making the money on their thing. Black Hat, we actually have a CAPTCHA portal. If it's crypto mining, we'll send you a notification like, by the way, you're crypto mining. If that's what you want to do, you're great. Otherwise, someone else is using your stuff. So click here. Yeah. So a few years ago, this conference was over Valentine's Day, and we saw a lot of love stuff in the clear. And also at the time, Tinder was allowing you to see the pictures of right, left in the clear. So actually, the NetWitness team put up a script to see who were the yes and who were the the like or the pass, left or right swipe. And
Yeah, there was an attendee here who happened to be a member of Congress, and he heard our little story, and so he sent a letter off to Match.com, and he said, WTF. So Match.com tried to fix it. So we had the challenge on the next go-around of the next show to try and find it, and we still had it. So it did get better after that, from show 1 to show 2. In show 1, we could actually see the pictures. In show 2, we just had to gather the telemetry and still go left or right. Another iteration, back and forth with Match.com, and it's now fixed, and you're safe. We don't know.
If you ever want to watch, or if you ever see a threat hunter jump out of his seat, chances are he's looking at something that somebody else is looking at, and he's really not comfortable with what they see.
you know, and Tinder was displaced 4 years ago as the #1 with Grindr. No commentary on that. We do give awards of what you're doing at the conference besides paying attention to us. We used to give awards of this for the shortest session and longest session, but someone complained that we did that, so we don't do that anymore.
We did get a complaint about the content of our presentation, and we're like, we're just reporting what you people do.
We used to put all the plain text JPEGs up there, but then we had to stop doing that as
Yes.
well because thanks, guys. All right, moving on. Let's talk about scanning. It's not a crime, but sometimes it's just not a, it's like what the F over. So there's a lot of scanning going on in this network. You can see here, this is what we're seeing inside the firewall with that scanning and the protocols that are being used, you know, the UDP, ICMP, TCMP, and so on. There's a particular vendor down there that has a portable scanner, and they brought it last year, and we saw it, found their MAC address and where they were, and went and talked to them like, yes, you can do it, but should you do it? And this year they're back, and they're using the same MAC address, so that was pretty easy to find. So we...
It's a really good tool. It really is. They just have it put in aggressive mode, and this is not an environment to be in aggressive mode.
Where we would step in is what we've seen these other conferences is they start scanning outside the network and hitting other infrastructure, or actually attacking infrastructure that they haven't set up for a demo outside. As Steve said, if it's illegal outside of the conference, it's still illegal here, so don't do that. And this one, I just want to shame them, but we're not going to.
Oh, what do we do? What do we do? So this particular application, we're now 1 year later, and people still believe that this is a cybersecurity tool. And it leaks data like nobody's business. And we just don't know.
They're a major sponsor of this conference.
They're a major sponsor. We spoke to them last year. Nothing's changed. We've talked to them a couple other times. Nothing's changed. So we have to consult the lawyers.
They may be in the SOC Finance report this summer. We're going to give them another opportunity to officially respond before we name them in the report. But it's one of those things where be aware of what your product does. There was an endpoint management tool that was used here a few years ago that was doing complete inventory of everything on the disk, vulnerability statements, stuff like that. It took, 3 years talking to them?
It did take us 3 years of talking to them. They were engaged after the first year. It took us a year to finally get some engagement and some conversation. But as cybersecurity professionals, you can go back to your organization and buy a tap on Amazon for $40 and plug in your laptop and capture all your traffic on Wireshark. You don't have to have the big infrastructure that we do. you can see this stuff.
It's talking
right?
about 80 terabytes
Like-
of storage that we have in the back.
I can go to Starbucks and steal your data and I can see this stuff, right? So if it's out there, it's out there. And we want to help these applications. We're not trying to shame them. We're not trying to shame any attendee at the conference, anybody like that. We want to help evangelize and make the world a safer place.
And with that, let's talk about how you're not secure. So I don't know if you can read Korean, but that's an insurance document for 835 million won to do gold transfers. And it has all the information you need of the insured, who's the insurance company, and things like that. They're translated into English. So we started digging into it and then found that also the complete pipeline report was going through the Clear with Excel. We also found purchase orders. Again, in Korean, this has the name of the CEO, their email address, what they're buying, how they're doing it, everything that you need to do have for a spear phishing attack to own this infrastructure of this. And so we dug in deeper. We saw it with the firewall because it came through as an unknown. It could have been malicious of PDFs because you make PDFs malicious, obviously, just like we could take this information, craft a PDF that was malicious to go in and attack any of these folks here. And then we asked our witness folks, like, hey, can you take a look and see what this is?
Yeah, so we dig in and we dig in and we dig in. And we have the URL, HTTP, everything. We have this screenshot and whatnot.
And the name of
so
the company.
the company name is in this, right? So I walked down to their booth and I had a chat with them. And they're like, oh man, that looks weird. That's our old logo. That's not our URL. It turns out it's their VAR reselling their product, and it's configured insecurely. So they have a good product, but the VAR made a mistake, right? And it's all too often we make that mistake as cybersecurity professionals to forget to check that box, right? We've worked with a number of MFA providers that had a default policy of fail open versus fail close. It's just a box. Check the box, right? And so you work with them and the default becomes secure and you have to work to make it insecure, right?
So in this case, talking to your partners, just kind of do an audit of how they're implementing your technology, because it was designed to, this is a Samsung device, as you saw in the packet capture up there. It had a board red. They're thinking that they're here in San Francisco and they want to securely look at their documents, but it is being insecure. So we also found that there's a way that you can find a love if you're not using Grindr and you want to find people who like the same music that you do and get to know other people because you have similar tastes. The issue is that you're sharing it with the entire world because it is in the clear of what your music choices are. That may not be something that you're concerned about, but obviously it should be.
And we actually think this one's by design. Looking at the traffic, it seems like it's intended to function that way.
Go figure. So let's talk about email.
I really thought this was dead. POP3 for serious. Why does the server even support it? Turn it off.
There's a lot of POP3 that we saw. In this case, if you go to the farmer's market or maybe outside, there's someone said, hey, do you want to help kids with cancer? Sign your name here, and then they get $1 for the signatures because it's for some ballot thing. And they're outside canvassing using our Wi-Fi, but we're reading their emails because they are using POP3. So some other things that we see is when it's called retrospective alerting, which is something comes through. Again, the firewalls are not blocking, even if they were in line and doing intrusion prevention. Sometimes you need to let things through for connectivity and for speed. So in this case, something came through. It went through the sandbox, and the sandbox figured out, hey, this actually is bad. We had over 50,000 files that were checked in this way of things that were coming in, inspected by that. And then it will also let us know, hey, this is if there was any lateral movement. So someone downloaded this in your corporate environment, you would have stopped it because it has this risk score of 95 out of 100, and that's because it's using some DLLs and other artifacts that are used by known Trojans. We'll, of course, allow you to do that if that's how you want to spend your time. or to do a demonstration in the corporate world, we stop that. But if it started again laterally moving, as we can see that trajectory, then we would take action accordingly.
This might be a little bit disturbing for some folks. Here's someone that had the best of intentions, right? Securing their home, securing their family, right? But the reality is their whole camera system is in the clear, right? These are thumbnails because we can't show you the full images, right? We're security professionals. Again, you're hooked up to a free network. It's kind of like hooking up to the free network at the airport. You're probably safer licking the floor at the airport than you are hooking up to the network, right? So think about the applications that you're using, right? What's going through those applications. Exercise a little bit of due diligence and keep your kids safe.
So sometimes it's not just you have to worry about, right? So this particular scenario, this person's sending and receiving emails. They're being sent and received in the clear. But this is 3 of their colleagues. Next one.
Yeah, in this case, this is actually a GET request by a major airline, which is a member of Alliance that I'm a member of, that is serving these up in the clear.
Yeah. So they're receiving their colleagues' flight information, boarding passes, everything. They're still inbound. They're not even here yet.
They're flying
and
today.
their data is being freely given away by their other colleagues. So, you know, we got to take care of each other here.
All right. So this was again the wireless policy, right? And we always recommend use a VPN.
Did we mention that?
Yes, several times. Did we say use a VPN?
Can we
No.
talk about VPNs for just a second? The things that we've seen in the past. We found VPNs that they're securely encrypted, but they pass the password in the clear. So that's been a struggle. We've also seen VPNs that do split tunneling because it's like, great, some traffic we don't want to be encrypted because we just want to make it faster, maybe like the audio visual or stuff like that. But then it's misconfigured so everything goes in the clear. Those are some of the struggles that we found, again, about that trust but verify.
Yeah. Use a personal firewall again, right? That's all. It's on half of the devices. It's on all the devices we own. You just have to turn it on, right? Stay up to date on your patches, your fixes, right?
Just not here. Do it before you come.
Yeah. You don't want to learn how to fight in the middle of the fight, as we like to say, right? Check your security configuration settings, right? Update your passwords. Use strong passwords. Again, back to the other original one, right?
And multi-factor authentication.
Questions?
So with that, we have time for questions.
Yeah.
There's
We have a couple
microphones here.
microphones here if you feel like you want to come up and ask a question.
It's back.
Sorry.
It's all good.
Go ahead, sir.
You were Yep. Okay. You were talking about some of the things that you do where you muse about saying or interjecting into the channel. Do you really think you ought to do this? Have you actually contemplated moving forward with that idea?
So we do that at Black Hat. So Black Hat, we control the actual infrastructure. So we have the firewalls and other components, and we control those. So we've automated that process because I'm only one human, Jessica's only one human. We can only see so many professionals at one time, right? And so what we did was we took that use case of notification of individuals of problems on their machine, and we automated it. So by using the automation, we actually are able to do some pretty cool things. So the automation pops up a captive portal, right? And there's just an OK button, much like this one, just continue, right? And it says a message, and each message is unique for what they're infected with or what's going on. So if you have malware, it pops up and it says, hey, we've detected malware on your computer. If you would like to drop by, we can maybe assist you with that, everything. Then it's different message for crypto mining, because you may want to be crypto mining, but we're going to notify you anyway. And so it pops up and it says, hey, we have detected crypto mining happening on your laptop. If this is intended behavior, simply click OK and move on. And so we've gotten, I think we have 5 different things that we've written a script for. There are times that I've written nice little love notes to people, you know, hey, what you're doing is illegal. It's a crime. If you would like to continue doing this, I will bring the FBI and visit you, and you give their host name, right? And so it just automated that notification process. I also get less arguments that way. So I used to go and visit, you know, a classroom or something, and I would tell, you know, tap them on the shoulder, hey, you know, I'm reading your email. And they'd argue with me. I'd tell them their password. And you owe $457,000 on your mortgage, and you just signed up to take your kid to college, and all this stuff, and then suddenly they become very interested. I've literally, we looked up, what, was it last year? Maybe. They all run together. We found a gentleman here that was renewing his CISSP, and we had all his information, so I called him up. And I left him a detailed voicemail.
Because his Harvard.
And he didn't call me back.
Yeah, his Harvard.edu email, all of his work email. He was able to call him because his CISSP renewal had his full contact information on there.
So the next day he came and visited us at the SOC and attended one of the tours, and then we got him secure. And yet again, it was a checkbox.
In his email aggregation tool.
An interesting evolution of that would be like with the senator that you were talking about. Maybe, and it sounds like you were doing that with Match, but have you contemplated maybe notifying the service, hi, you are doing your members a disservice in this way?
So Match.com is a parent company for several of the apps. So this particular one was one of their subsidiary companies. And so, you know, he worked that out that, you know, we saw his data in that app, and so he contacted Match.com on his own. We weren't even involved in that conversation. He might have panicked. I might have been married. I don't know. Maybe.
Right. Thank you.
Cheers.
Hello. My question's about how you counted the number of Slack channels. I figure that Slack mostly operates over HTTPS, so I was wondering how that was
that
counted.
question. So it's by URL.
By the URL.
There might be some information that we could read, and we don't decrypt.
So when you go to your Slack channel, like ours is rsasoc.slack.com.
Oh, so you do it through like the DNS then?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
URL.
Thank you.
All right, so the pack file you showed personally concerns me a little bit. And I was just wondering if you had any other information that you could share about that finding.
On which one?
The pack file,
The pack file.
the unsecure.
Oh, not at this time. So we have 3 sets of lawyers that we have to deal with, right? So we have RSA conference lawyers, NetWitness lawyers, and Cisco lawyers, and then potentially that company's lawyers before we can release that name. But it's now been a year. And as we've said on several of these other applications, it did take us 3 years to get them secure, but they did talk to us, right? This particular one we've spoken to, and they basically said, working as intended.
Sorry, I'm confident that I know the name. I was just wondering if you could just dwell into how you came across that, finding itself.
Oh, it leaks data like a sieve. It's all in plain text.
It's flying through the network. What we would encourage you to do is if you have a pack file, take a look at it yourself. You do a little Wireshark, and you can do the same thing that we did. We have colleagues that have resigned in protest from working at that firm.
All right, I think we're out of time.
Do we have?
Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. See you.